What's up everyone, John from ARTV. Welcome back to Throwbacks Week. Today we've got a review of the 2003 third studio album that you guys have been talking about me reviewing for a long time now, because I know there's a ton of fans of the UK rockers Muse on my channel. Today I am finally reviewing that album, Absolution. This, to this point in their career, was probably their most concise album in terms of its lyrical themes. It was more focused than they had been to date, and there were some recurring themes of like just the end of the world. Obviously Apocalypse Please, the title of one of the songs, can probably give you an idea of that, but the album overall just provides a snapshot of chaos. Now, a lot of the lyrical themes on this record were inspired by the Iraq War that had just started at this time. There was a lot of chaos and confusion in the world in 2003, and Matthew Bellamy, the leader and the lyricist, the primary lyricist I should say, of this band, was really inspired by that and just kind of ran with it, gave it an over-the-top type of feel. There's a lot of huge piano swells, big vocal bursts, and I love how transformative these songs really truly are. They've got a lot of different parts to them. You see that they come in waves and hit in different stages. Falling Away With You, that's one that's a little bit more relationship centric, but still it has its overarching themes and big hits in terms of the musicality of it. And then towards the end of the record, you've got like Ruled by Secrecy, technically the final song, although most re-releases include the track Fury for track number 15. Ruled by Secrecy has those big piano builds and the vocals unleashing from Bellamy towards the end of the track. And you see just how they can go from these smaller moments that are a lot more contained to just these explosive outbursts that go off like a firecracker. Some of those biggest explosions being like Stockholm Syndrome, one that you cannot escape that riff. It is punishing, easily one of the most notable in Muse's entire discography. And then of course Fury as well. That's another moment that just really can't contain itself. It's got a different vibe to it. I like it. It starts off kind of dark and then builds into it more and more. It was very different from Muse. Matthew Bellamy really fought for this one to be on the track listing, but instead the other two members of this band really wanted the small print. And I understand why. The small print, easily one of my favorite Muse songs. I love how Muse has two different sides to them. A softer side that, yeah, sure, you probably need to be in the mood for, at least I personally know that applies to me, but also have their incredibly hard-hitting, aggressive tendencies that go off like a firecracker, like I was talking about before. I really feel like Matthew Bellamy struck this perfect balance between those high falsetto ranges and then those intense howls over a variety of instrumentals. I mean, seriously, like I said, you're gonna hear those pianos, those chugging guitars on some of the moments that really just liven you up. You hear these energizing hooks that really just pump you full of life and make you feel what they're feeling. They got more political than they ever had up to this point, and obviously they explored that a lot more on some of their albums that came after that, most notably like The Resistance and obviously The Second Law as well, and Drones, big time. That was an album that came out in 2015 that I thoroughly enjoyed. A lot of people didn't, but you can definitely see where those political influences started, and that was with 2003's Absolution. Although these tracks do feel very connected, and this definitely feels like an album, I feel like these songs have a big shift in terms of what they have to offer it. From the war cry that is Sing for Absolution, one of my personal favorites, as it features these huge piano builds and swells and this enchanting guitar melody to it as well, to the slow tempoed Falling Away With You, a cut that really just leaves a little smile on your face each time you listen to it. Then you've got the electronic influenced Endlessly, one that I feel like is much more of a personal song for Bellamy, but one that totally grew on me over the years. I didn't like it at first because whenever I first was listening to this album at the beginning of high school, I was in my rock phase where I was like, oh, if it doesn't have hard-hitting guitars, I'm not into it at all. But now, years later, I'm appreciating it as one of my favorite songs, at least at the moment. My favorites definitely fluctuate with this album just because there's 15 tracks. Obviously, there's so many good ones, it's really hard to choose from, but I do want to say that this is one that definitely settles in with you over time. So you've got moments like that, and then you can shift into something like Blackout, an orchestral piece that has a 15-piece symphony playing on it, backing this one, and just aiding to its huge feel that really just soars. It shows Muse showing off what they can do. They're flexing early on in their career. They already did that with the albums that came out, but on their third album, they are really getting things done. Now, obviously, you've got Muse standards, like some of your classic tracks on here. I already talked about Stockholm Syndrome. Time is Running Out is another huge one. I think it kind of goes underrated because it was a single and it is pretty popular, but I feel like people don't really pay attention to what all is going on in this song. There's a lot of nuanced details to appreciate here. Sure, you've got those buzzing synths and that bass, kind of the snaps going on, but Bellamy's vocals are really unique on this one, especially as it builds up towards that chorus. The guitars start to roar, and then obviously the bridge on this thing is another thing that I have to talk about and compliment because the band did so well with it. It's a track that stands out years later because they made every single part of the song work. They didn't just focus on having a good chorus or a good build-up, they had a good everything. Thoughts of a Dying Atheist is another one that definitely takes things in a very contemplative place lyrically. It's one that has a big hook on it, one of the most memorable on the entire album as Bellamy just kind of soars with his voice. I love the vocal fluctuation that he does there, and then of course he's singing "It Scares the Hell Out of Me." It's just something that really kind of jumpstarts the rest of the track for me. It makes everything kind of fall into place, and we see that again on moments like Butterflies and Hurricanes, one that definitely has that kind of end of the world feel and appeal that I was talking about. A huge track, one of my favorites, alongside Apocalypse Please. I seriously feel like I'm walking away from an explosion and just feeling cool about it. Like that Lonely Island song, "Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions." Yeah, this is kind of like the living proof of that. Apocalypse Please is just epic on every level. It's saying, declare this a state of emergency. It's got those huge piano hits that you've come to love from Muse, but this is totally on a different level. It's like, okay, there's a sense of urgency here because he is singing about the end of the world, and it really grabs your attention and hooks you almost instantly on this moment right here. And it's got that kind of synthy and spacey thing that they did a lot more on Black Holes and Revelations. This gave us a taste of what was to come on the next album, and I love that. Obviously, if you guys have seen my review of that album, there's a link in the description down below for more Muse reviews. I recommend checking that out. Obviously, I am a huge fan of that sound. Oh, you thought I was gonna make it through a review of Absolution without talking about Hysteria? That would be like talking about presidents without George Washington. I already mentioned a sense of urgency on Apocalypse Please, but Hysteria is on a totally different level. It's on a different playing field, a different planet. Everything about this song is fantastic and fascinating. It's like grabbing your ear and nailing it to the floor, an eargasm every single time, because there's so much to fucking appreciate about it. You really have to compliment their bassist Chris here because he is doing incredible things. The way that the guitar and bass line up so perfectly, and then obviously Dominic coming in with his thrashing drums on this one, that screeching guitar line that just kind of opens things up, comes to a crescendo, and then finally kicks in with the rest of the guitar as that bass line really starts it all off. It's all over the place. This is one of my favorite tracks to play on the game Rock Band, just because I feel like I'm kind of getting a taste of what they're actually doing, and it helps me appreciate that music and that talent oh so much more, because I want it now. I want you now, he sings on this track. Kind of a song that seems to be about getting someone that you can't have. The music video shows that off as well. Highly recommend this track. Definitely in my top 50 of all time, and my favorite Muse song. If you've gotten into Muse more recently and never went back and checked out this record, please do yourself a favor and do it. Listen to this album from start to finish. You will find all of these different things to appreciate. The instrumentals, like I was already talking about, the vocals from Matthew Bellamy. He gives great performances here, as he has throughout their entire career. One of my favorite vocalists of all time. This dude is always killing it, and Muse, just as a band, they're so tight-knit, they know what they want to do, and they seemingly almost always accomplish that. So overall for me, do I love this album? Do I continue to come back to it? Absolutely yes. One of my favorite Muse records, a 5 out of 5 for me. Let me know your thoughts on Absolution all these years later in the comment section down below. Smash the like button while you're here to let me know that you're enjoying Throwbacks Week, and subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. You can check out my last throwback review right here, or a recent review that I think you might like right here. Social media linked in the description. Other than that, I will see you very soon right here on ARTV.